What it do, YouTube, man? It is your boy Solid back with another Solid reaction. And today we got a video. We got why Larry Bird is underrated. What do you mean Larry Bird is underrated? But you know why he's underrated? Because we have so many kids who don't know the history of what a killer is, the killer instinct. I am one of those people who strongly believe the Mamba mentality was passed down from Larry Bird to Kobe Bryant. Because the way Larry was, he wasn't his body. Let me be blatantly. His body wasn't set for him to win. He wasn't set to win. Like, if you look at Larry, if anybody can honestly look at Larry Bird and just say, bro, he's body. If you look at, just by looking at him, I'm not saying looking at how he plays. Just look at Larry. Larry Bird walks into a building. You see him, you're like, man, that boy cannot play no basketball. He is garbage. He's trash. That's probably what you'd say. But then you see him play and you're like, he can pass, he can score, he can shoot, he can do this, he can do that, he can dribble, he got a bag, he can read the court, he knows what he's doing, he knows how to talk to people, he's trash talking, he does all this. Who is this guy? That's what Larry Bird was. And I feel like a lot of people just see a picture of Larry Bird and say, oh, he had to be garbage. Like, that's what I feel like a lot of the young kids are doing. They're just looking at the picture saying, yeah, this guy had to be garbage. There's no way this guy was actually a top 5 player. And that's why I think they look at it and say, oh, well, Michael Jordan's era was easy. Because if you look at a lot of those guys, like at a picture of those guys, if you look at those guys, would you be intimidated? The Kevin McHale's, you know you wouldn't be intimidated. Larry Bird, would you be intimidated of that player? Charles Barkley, I'm damn sure not intimidated of him. Let me think of another good player. There's a great one, Isaiah Thomas. Would you be terrified of him? Magic Johnson, he always smiling. Why would you be terrified of him? He smiled too much. I wouldn't be. Kareem, he had a lake in the head. His hair gone. I'm not scared of you. Like, you get what I'm saying? So to picture mass, these players look unmenacing. But number mass, if you know the numbers, these guys are the menaces. Isaiah Thomas was freaking amazing. Larry Bird was crazy. McHale was crazy. Look, Robert Parrish is another player that I would have been like, bro, you trash. And he probably would have cooked me. Another player who I think the era of players that actually looked like they were killers didn't start until Mike. Mike was the first one who actually looked like he could kill somebody. But we got, even in that, think about that. Would you have been scared of Reggie Miller? Reggie looked like he a punk. Like, he don't even fight. Like, what are you talking about? Let me think of somebody else that was in that era, that little Michael Jordan era. That was like, you looked at him and you were like, bro, are you really? Dennis Rodman, he wearing wigs and stuff, bro. Come on, I'm not scared of you. Come on, you get what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. That's the point of it. I'm just saying, I feel like people think Larry Bird is underrated. A lot of the young kids think Larry Bird is underrated because of the simple fact that they didn't watch him play. If you go and watch him play and you see these tap passes he making, these pull-ups, these cut-offs, all of this stuff, you'd be like, okay, Larry Bird is raw. But because you saw a picture of him, you were like, nah, he not raw. But, man, we're going to check this video out. I don't want to rant too long, man. Make sure y'all hit that subscribe button, like this video, man. And let's get into this one and see what's going on, man.
It is widely accepted that Larry Bird is one of the greatest NBA players of all time, and even sneaks his way into the GOAT debate among many basketball circles.
Bing, bing.
The thing is, I personally rank Larry Bird higher than most people do, as he's currently sitting in the 6th spot on my all-time list, and I even have him ranked slightly ahead of Magic Johnson, which is certainly a more uncommon opinion. I think there's some major misconceptions to Bird's game that result in him not getting quite as much credit as I believe he deserves. Wow. And by the end of this video, I think that I can convince some of you that Larry Legend is in fact underrated. Before we get into some misconceptions, let's start with what most people already know about Bird, and I'll elaborate upon it. Over his 13-year career, Larry averaged 24.3 points on a stellar 56.4 true shooting percentage. Despite their talent-heavy history,
what is you talking about?
Celtics' all-time leading playoff scorer.
And has yet to be taken.
In the regular season or the postseason, he was always an efficient and lethal threat. He was obviously a legendary scorer and an incredibly efficient shooter. Larry is objectively one of the greatest three-point shooters of all time, as he's tied with Craig Hodges for the most three-point contests won in a career with a total of 3. The thing is, Hodges participated in a total of 8 three-point competitions, while Bird only participated in a total of 4. So he literally did the same amount of damage as the other all-time leader in half the amount of time. On top of all of this, you really could make the argument that Bird is the most all-around efficient scorer of NBA history. If that seems like a stretch, then consider
Look at the numbers, bro.
During some of his prime years, Larry went on a 5-year stretch where he had 50, 40, 90%.
Look at that. 27 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists. That is amazing. I think he's like, isn't he like, it's only 3 players in NBA history to do post 50, 40, 30? Isn't he? I think it's only 3 players. I feel like I'm right.
Percentages. Only 9 players in NBA history have achieved at least one season of 50, 40, 90 percentages. Yet Larry did it over a 5-year stretch while putting up just about 28, 10, and 7.
5 times in a row. That's 5. Well, not in a row, but he did it over 5 years. He averaged that over 5 years. He did it for 5 years. He averaged that for 5 years. Like, bro, that's crazy.
The only player who has come close to that all-around efficiency over such a long period of time is actually Steve Nash.
Stevie.
But the thing is, Nash was never primarily a scorer and averaged roughly half the amount of points that Larry did during his stretch. To efficiently score that many points on that kind of volume of all-around shot attempts is something that no one else has ever done as well as Larry Bird did. Again, maybe some of you didn't know the extent of how lethal Larry was as an all-around efficient scorer, but I do feel like that's probably the most commonly understood aspect of his game. Now for the misconceptions and the details
that he couldn't dunk, that he's not fast.
Underrated player. There are a lot of people, especially younger basketball fans, who believe that Larry was a subpar defender. This is incredibly
a great defender,
as Bird wasn't just a good defensive player, but a great one. As a 6'9" small forward, he definitely had the size and length to frustrate the offensive opponent. Sure, there is the narrative that Larry was a slow and unathletic player, and thus it affected his defensive play.
I don't think Larry was that.
To a certain extent, but it's also grossly exaggerated. What Larry did have are the most important traits of a great defensive player, which are hustle, heart, intelligence, effort, and availability. Larry was never lacking in any of these areas.
Good block.
He always put in the work, and he was incredible.
And give me my rebound. What are you talking about?
But also at anticipating them.
Give me this hand.
Larry made 3 NBA All-Defense teams throughout the course.
That's more than LeBron. I want you to know that. That's more than LeBron.
of his career, and even finished as high as 3rd overall in the Defensive Player of the Year running in 1983. He wasn't just a solid on-ball and help defender, but he was also a terrific pickpocket, as Larry averaged a fantastic 1.7 steals per game over the course of his 13-year career. His best evening in this area came on February 18, 1985 against the Utah Jazz, when Larry dropped 30 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists,
almost
and
9 a quadruple double
in only 3 quarters of play.
In 3 quarters?
Due to them absolutely destroying the Jazz, Bird didn't play a second of the 4th quarter. To this day,
and I want to keep this in mind, this is during hand checking. This is during fouls, when fouls weren't really getting called like that. And Larry almost had a quadruple double. LeBron James has never even got close to a quadruple double. You get what I'm saying? In today's era where there's none of that. Far from grace, bro.
The NBA record for the most steals in a single game is 11. So not only could he have easily been only the 2nd player to ever achieve the quadruple-double, but if Bird had played the 4th, he might have been the record holder for the most steals in a game. You have to be a great defensive player in order to be in a position to seize that record. On top of all of that, Bird led the entire NBA in defensive win shares a total of 4 times. That's the 4th most in NBA history. The only players ahead of him on that list are Tim Duncan, George Mikan, and Bill Russell.
Okay, George Mikan was raw. I wish they had more footage on him.
I'm not trying to say that Bird was on the level of someone like Dennis Rodman or Scottie Pippen. But to call Larry anything other than a great defensive player is either completely ignorant or is just plain disrespect towards his game. The other key area where people underappreciate Bird was his rebounding ability, as Larry was simply one of the greatest rebounding small forwards that the game has ever seen.
Facts.
He was aggressive and tenacious as
he always followed the shot. He knew it was coming so he can get it.
In 1983. Qualities that I mentioned earlier, like his size, hustle, and intelligence, are also things that helped him as he battled on the boards. Over the course of his career, Larry averaged a whopping 10 rebounds per game, and when he was starting specifically at the small forward position, he averaged 9.5 rebounds per game. That's the third highest average among primary small forwards in NBA history. The only players ahead of him are Billy Cunningham and Elgin Baylor, who both played in the 1960s, which was easily the most inflated rebounding era of basketball history.
Inflated, damn.
So not only is Bird an underrated rebounder, not only is he objectively one of the all-time great rebounders, but he's also arguably the greatest rebounder ever at his position. Along with all the other skills I talked about, Larry was also a remarkably gifted facilitator. But I won't delve into that much, because like his shooting, I also think that's an area that a decent amount of people have a strong appreciation for. Ultimately, I think it's his solid defense and his elite rebounding.
I feel like that people the other thing that I hope it looks like he won't, but if he doesn't put it on, I'll say it. I feel like another thing that is underrated on Larry Bird is his IQ, his thought process. Because to think the way Larry thinks is to think like a madman, but for it to work, is it really mad or is it just pure genius? Like, that's how I'm really feeling about it. Like, is it mad or is it pure genius? Because his IQ is high. It has to be high.
Underestimate, which is why
basketball
I think he's
IQ, I don't know about the rest,
regardless of the fact that people still refer to him as Larry Legend. Do you agree? Where does Larry Bird rank on your list of the greatest players of all time? Let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
All right, man, that is the end of this video, man. I hope y'all guys did enjoy this one, man. Make sure y'all hit that like button and subscribe, man. Y'all know how I'm feeling about this. I feel like Larry Bird is underrated to the masses. If you didn't grow up in the 80s, the 90s, even the 70s, if you didn't grow up in those eras where you actually got to watch Larry Bird play, then I feel like you're going to say, well, Larry Bird is underrated. You know, like you feel like he's overrated. Like, oh God, he's y'all make him seem like he's just that. No, it's because he is. Larry Bird is freaking amazing. If you watch him play and you don't say, I couldn't do that shit a couple of times, then you're a fucking liar. But man, thank you guys for checking this out. I'm gonna go ahead and get up out here. Solid is out. Peace.